Welcome back everybody. I'm Average Joe and welcome to another Average video. Time now is 12:38 p.m. I'm getting a late start, but that's okay. In today's Average video, we're going to be testing out the brand spanking new OUPES Guardian 6000, and that's what we just did right up there. Is we are simulating a grid outage and we're powering my entire house. And of course they also sent one expansion battery right up here on top. All right, first thing we will do is go over everything that comes with the portable power station only, not the expansion battery. So first thing is going to be this little zippy case that you can house all of your accessories that you get. Next thing is going to be your manual right here, and then you're going to get your warranty card and all of that kind of fun stuff right here. And then the zippy pouch right here, open that up, you're going to get your standard AC wall charging cable right here, and then you do get one set of MC4, and on the other side you do get a Anderson connector right here. And this pouch is pretty nice. You get a little area up here that you could put, you know, whatever, and then you get some spots down here. These are velcroed in, and then you can also velcro stuff to these as well. You're going to get two of those to put stuff behind there. And then for the expansion battery up on top, you're going to get a manual and then your warranty cards and stuff like that. And of course you are going to get the expansion battery connecting cable right over here on the side. Next thing we'll do is we'll go through the specifications real quick, and I'll try to put that up on the screen so you can follow along. AC output. This actually does 120, 240 right out of the box. You don't have to push any extra buttons or anything like that. As soon as you turn on the AC button on the side, you're going to get 120 and 240 volt split phase, which is fan-freaking-tastic if you're trying to use this in a power outage, you know, stuff like that. I guess technically you could use this for time of use mode, you know, stuff like that, to maybe lower your power bill, stuff like that. But I would imagine most people would use this in a power outage, kind of like what we're simulating right now. For the 120 volt outlets, which I'll show you here in just a second, you can get up to 3600 watts output, and then for 240 volts, you can get 6,000 watts. And then there's also a boost mode, which gets you up to 7,200 watts. And then it can also surge up to 9,000 watts. Bypass mode, it says 2,400 watts. What that means is if you're using this as a UPS, you know, you have this plugged into the wall, and then you have appliances or medical equipment or whatever, you know, plugged into the side, power goes out, you don't want to go over 2,400 watts. And that's mainly because the cable that you plug in from here to the wall, the charging cable right here, this can only really do like 1,800 watts. So 2,400 watts is kind of high to me. All right, next thing on the list, you do get a cigarette lighter output. That is 12 volts, 10 amps, or 120 watts. You're going to get a USB-A and USB-C outputs right up here on the front. USB-A is 18 watts, and then USB-C is up to 140 watts max. Next one down is you're going to get an XT90 output, and that can do 12 volts at 30 amps or 24 volts at 20 amps. That's going to be right up here on the front underneath this little cover right here. Next will be the inputs, and for AC input, of course, your standard wall charging 120 volts, and you can go up to 1,800 watts max. However, keep in mind this does have a Wi-Fi or Bluetooth app. If you go over here onto this side over here, there is a slider, so you can go 1,800 watts or you can go to the adjust mode. Go into the app and then you can adjust it. I think it's all the way down to 200 watts. So it is adjustable if you want it to. Next one down is the solar input, so 12 to 140 volts. And then the best or optimal MPPT range is 18 volts to 130 volts, 15 amps, or 2,100 watts max. And then for the cigarette lighter input, it is 12 to 15 volts, 8.5 amps max. Alrighty, and then the other general information that you would like to know, this has lithium iron phosphate batteries inside. Battery capacity is 4,608 watt hours. It is 51.2 volts and 90 amp hours. It's got your standard working temperatures. Dimensions are 29 by 16 by 16, and it weighs 111.33 pounds. it's pretty heavy. But it does have wheels and the suitcase pull-up handle right over here on the side. I'll bring you in a little closer. All right, we'll just take a quick look at the front screen here. So right up here on the top left is going to be your IoT button. That's for your Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. Like I said, this does have a Bluetooth app, which you can also connect to your Wi-Fi, so you can control this basically from anywhere as long as you have an internet connection. Right below that's going to be your 12-volt cigarette lighter output right there. To turn that on, as well as your USB-C and A ports right here, you have a DC power on and on button. So you're going to get two quick charge 3.0s and then a USB-C right in the center, which can do up to 140 watts. Right over here is going to be your 12-volt to 20-volt selector right here, and that is for your XT90 right here. You can choose whichever output you would like, and of course to turn that on, you have that power button right there. Finally, up here on the top right is going to be your power button to turn the whole power station on. Okay, and I think the screen is pretty self-explanatory. So we have our Bluetooth and Wi-Fi right up here. Right here is showing we have one battery expansion connected. Right in the center, of course, is going to be our battery percent state of charge, along with the blue highlighted area up here. And then right over here is going to be our output. So we're doing roughly 1400 watts. We have 5.6 hours of runtime, at the 1400 watts. It does show our outputs are on, so I'm actually going to just turn those back off real quick. And then right underneath that, it's going to show 120, 240, 60 hertz. All right, and then of course all of our input is going to show up on this side, which hopefully I can show a little bit later. On the left-hand side of the power station, you're going to get two fan intake ports, a battery expansion port right here. I can open that up if you would like to see it. We also have the second one on this side, which we are plugged into right now. And then right in the center is going to be your AC input, your solar charging through Anderson connection ports, and then you're going to have your overprotection or circuit breaker right here. So this is just the standard wall charging outlet right here. And then your 12 to 148 volts DC input for your solar or DC charging right here. And then as I mentioned earlier, you can do fast charge or adjust, and that is adjusted through the app, which I'll show you in just a minute. All right, this is going to be the right-hand side of the power station. So right up here is going to be your two fan exhaust ports. You're going to get four 120 volt 20 amp outlets across the top. You're going to get one L14-30. This is a 240 volt outlet right here. We're using the L1450, which is also 240 volts. You're going to get one 240 volts. I forget what this one is actually called, but this one is just straight 240 volts. You could plug in like 240 volt welders, etc. into that. And then finally, you're going to get your TT30 RV plug right here. You got 20 amp max right here, 20 amp max right there, 30 amp max right here. And just like I said at the beginning of the video, this has the UPS function or EPS function right here. These are going to be the outlets that works in. So you get two 120 volt outlets and your TT30 plug right there. And then as you saw earlier, to turn it on and off through this AC button right here. All right, that's going to be a quick little overview of the Guardian 6000. Now the expansion battery on top, there's no extra inputs or outputs, no USB, no solar charging or anything like that. On the left-hand side of the expansion battery, you're going to get two battery expansion ports, and you can use either one that you would like. So of course, the one that you're not using, you can use that one to expand to another battery. Right here in the center, you're going to have an LED percent state of charge, and then a power on and off button. And just FYI, if you are plugged into the portable power station below, you can turn on the whole unit with this power button right here. The battery capacity is the same as down here, 4,608 watt hours. All right, next thing I was gonna do is go over the app real quick. Like I mentioned before, whenever you first connect it, you're going to hold down the IoT button for like 3 seconds, and then you're gonna pair it with your phone. You're going to download the app, and this will find it basically immediately. Okay, so this is what the home screen looks like, and as you can see, right now we're drawing 959 watts, which is basically the same right down here. Top left is going to be your solar coming in. Next over to that is going to be grid if we were connected to grid. Right in the center is basically an outline of the power station. So we have 88% state of charge, Our temperature is 71 degrees freedom units, and we have 7 hours and 41 minutes of runtime at the current 959 watts. Of course, that time is going to change, you know, whenever you have a larger load or a smaller load. Right below that's going to be your DC output. That's with these right over here. If you had stuff plugged in, it'll show you how much you're pulling. To the right of that, as you've already seen, it is our AC output. Right below that, you can manually turn on with the push of a button the DC and XT90 right up here on the front. And of course, you can also set up a little timer for whenever you want those to shut off. Right below that, of course, you can turn on and off the AC button along with the little timer. I'm not going to do that one because then we'll shut down my entire house. And then right below that, it's a little tricky to see on my phone. It says external device. We can click on that. That's going to show you the expansion battery right up here on the top. And as you can see, we're kind of splitting the output between the expansion battery and the main battery right down here. You can see that 595 watts, and we have 6 hours and 57 minutes of runtime to that one. It's sitting at 91% state of charge. So that says 6 hours and 53 minutes. Right here it says 5.7. So they're a little off. Maybe it pulls a little bit more from the main battery right here and a little bit less right here. Back up on the main screen, if you want to go into the settings, you're going to click on the little gear. So as I was saying earlier, the charge rate right over here, you can put it to full send of 1800 watts, or you can slide it to adjust. And that is your AC charging power right up here on the top. And you can change that all the way from 200 watts up to 1800 watts. Right now I have mine set on 500 watts, so I could do a slow charge. A slow charge is always better, but if you need to use the 1800 watts, maybe there's a storm coming in and you want to be prepared, go ahead and put it to 1800 watts to do a full send charge. In here you can also change your hertz. If you're in a different country, you can do 50 hertz, but here in the United States we use 60. You can change the screen timeout. I have it set to never for this video, but normally I would have it for like 5 minutes so it doesn't waste any extra battery. Right below that is the breathing light setting. We can turn that off, and I don't know what it actually does. I didn't see any difference there. You can do silent mode, so that would be if you have this like in your bedroom, maybe you have it hooked up to a CPAP or some other type of medical equipment in your bedroom. This will basically make sure it stays quiet while you sleep. Night mode, I'm not really sure what night mode is. After enabling night mode, the screen will turn off, the prompt sound, including the alarm sound, will turn off, and the AC charging power will decrease to a silent level. Okay, so that's basically, again, if you have this in your bedroom and you don't want any noises, etc. like that, you can put in start time and end time and all that kind of stuff, and that will make sure it is silent. Auto connect mode. So in on, the device will automatically connect to the app basically as soon as this turns on. That's how I have mine set up, and I believe I would always keep it like that. But if you have it in the off, it requires a short press of the IoT button right up here. I don't know, maybe if that's on that option it uses less energy. I'm not 100% sure, but for mine, I just leave it on. And then under the general mode, you can change the device name to whatever you'd like. You can change the temperature units from Freedom to Celsius. Device information, we can click on that and it'll basically give you all the specifications. And then under the advanced section, you have energy management. This is where you can go in and change whether you want this to fully charge to 100% state of charge, or if you only want to go to like 90% state of charge. If you do like a 90 and 10% left on the bottom, you're going to get a longer battery life. But I guess if you're in like a storm, you know, and you just need as much power as possible, you're going to put that on 0 and 100%, so you can use the full battery capacity. But if you're using this to like power a cabin, or you're just trying to save some on your utility bill, stuff like that, then you would probably want to set that to 10 and 90, or maybe even 2090 or 2080, so you can extend the battery life. It's really up to you. For me, honestly, I just go 0, 100. And then right below that, energy backup. The proportion of energy storage and backup determines how much electricity in reserve during power outages. For example, setting it to 50% when the power level is below 50%, the system will use AC power and solar energy to charge together, and when it's above 50%, only solar energy will be used to supplement the power. And then last one is your standby timeouts. You can set up each one of these to automatically shut off if you're not using it, you know, for X amount of time. It's going to go ahead and shut off each thing to conserve energy. And then lastly, we have machine standby time. I have mine set to never for this video, but honestly, I'd probably leave it on 1 hour. Basically, if you're not using anything and 1 hour goes by, it's gonna automatically shut off. And then the last one is your Wi-Fi Bluetooth timeout. Of course, I have mine on no standby because I want it to connect basically anytime it needs to. So we have been powering my house off-grid for almost 1 hour. We have about 5 minutes left for 1 hour. Typically what I would do is I would go around and show you exactly what's being powered. My little shop area, we got my computer, which is probably pulling a ton of power. LED lights up right here. 6 or so LED lights across the ceiling. We got a bunch of tool batteries, battery chargers, etc., all being powered back there. We have the all-important beer fridge right here. A little mini fridge right here with some beverages in it. And then going up the stairs, of course, we have all your standard LED lights on. In the kitchen, we got the 2 pendant lights right there. We got a LED light on right there. Full-size refrigerator up here, powered on. The cat's water dish on. And in this room up here, apparently we have 1 Christmas tree with lights on, which I think happened whenever we did the power switch. 1 battery-powered cat right here. Another battery-powered cat right here that you can barely see. In these bins right down here, we have our Wi-Fi cable modem, you know, DVD player and stuff like that. For the garage, which I always forget, is gonna be the garage door opener, and there could be like a tool battery or something out there. That's basically everything in the house that's being powered. All right, so what I think I'm gonna do now is we're going to run this through a couple of high demand tests. First one is gonna be my dryer. Next one could be a 4-ton air conditioning, which is what I have outside, but keep in mind, I do have a soft start. I kind of guarantee it's gonna start, but we'll try it anyway. And then after that, we'll go into like conserve mode and we'll just power the minimum loads, which is gonna be the refrigerator and my furnace because it is winter time right now. All right, let's get to it. We're gonna do the dryer first, so we will turn that on. I'll just do a quick little one right here. It is on the highest temperature setting. Here we go. Ooh, there was a little buzz. Oh, we just shut it down. So you cannot do your dryer while running the rest of your house. Damn. Okay, let me reset. All right, so down here on the front, we do have an overload code, which is E01. I think all we have to do is come over here and push the power button, and the code will go away, and then we'll come back over here again and turn it on. And hopefully all the lights turn back on. Boom. Power is back on. All right, now I wasn't quite sure if the dryer was gonna work, but it doesn't really matter that it didn't because in a real power outage, I don't think anybody's gonna be thinking about drying their clothes. But what they might wanna run is their air conditioning, which we will try next. So I have a 4-ton air conditioning outside with a soft start. I would imagine this will do it, but we're going to find out. So real quick, if we take a look, we're drawing basically 1100 watts, okay? I'm going to flip over to my air conditioning. We'll drop that down. We'll flip back over here. I don't know how long it's gonna take since we just restarted everything. Oh, it might go. It did do it. There was some little flashing. There was a little buzzy noise over here. Damn, I forgot to look on here to see what the surge was. But right now we're doing, well, only 3,500 watts. And if we take a look at this meter right here, we're at 50 decibels. We're about 3 feet away, but we also have my furnace down here to contend with. So I don't know if that really counts. But it does, oh, the fans just shut off anyway, so it doesn't matter. But it does run the air conditioning, and if you ran the air conditioning non-stop from 75% state of charge, you're gonna get like 2 hours of runtime, which kind of makes sense, which I probably wouldn't suggest unless it was just ridiculous hot out. Anyway, we are going to shut that off so we don't waste any more energy. Now, one thing I think I'm probably not gonna do now, since it didn't run the dryer, is I don't even think I'm going to attempt the stove. I really only think we would be able to get maybe 1 or 2 burners. That's basically about it. So I don't even think I'm going to try it. All right, so the next thing we're gonna do is we're just gonna kind of power down and go into conserve mode. There's like 2 different ways we can do this. We can continue powering my entire house like we're doing now, going through the generator input port right here and powering everything. But what we could do, if this was a real power outage, we could go through and turn off all the circuits that we don't plan to use. Basically, all we would really want to use is like your refrigerators, maybe a furnace if it's in the wintertime, and maybe a few other things like some lights, maybe a TV for entertainment, stuff like that. Or what you could do, which what we're going to do, is we're going to connect up to a manual generator transfer switch right over there. But in order for me to do that real quick, I do have to put us back on grid so we can flip over to that. And all I need to do that, of course, is turn off the generator breaker, which is this right down here. Boom. And then I need to turn on the main breaker. So now we're actually back on grid. We'll come right down here, turn off the AC, unplug this guy, pull him out, and this time we're gonna go through the L1430 right here. All right, so I got my L1430 cable right here. Plug him in. Here's my ProTrans 2 manual generator transfer switch. Go ahead and plug him in, give him a little twist. And in here, I've only got 4 circuits. I have my TV room, my basement shop area, which we are not going to power. I have my refrigerator upstairs and my furnace down here. So we're going to do C, E, and F. Down here, all we need to do is flip up the switches right here from line mode to generator mode. So that'll be C, E, and F. Don't forget to hit the power button right there. Boom, there we go. Now we're powered down and just powering those 3 circuits, my furnace, my fridge, and the TV room upstairs, which has some lights and all that kind of stuff. A couple outlets, cable modem, router, stuff like that. Okay, so right now, currently we're only drawing 55 watts. So really all that is standby power for right now. So that's gonna be like the cable modem, router, and maybe a couple laptop chargers, stuff like that. So if we continue at this rate right now, which would be unheard of, we'll have 2 days and 7 hours from 73% state of charge, which is crazy. I'm not exactly sure what it would have been whenever it was 100% state of charge. I don't know, maybe 4 days. But keep in mind, the refrigerator is gonna kick on and off, the furnace is gonna kick on and off, your lights and stuff, you're gonna turn those on and off, and depending how long or how much you use your TV upstairs. Okay, but currently, right now, we have 2 days and 7 hours. Alrighty, back over here in my little shop area, and we're gonna do a variety of tests to finish out this video. First one is gonna be checking all the voltages on all the outlets over here, because sometimes they will claim 120 volts or 240 volts, but really only put out like 110 or 220 or some random number. Next one after that, we'll do a couple like load tests with some heaters. We'll probably throw a saw on there just to make sure it can start that. During that, we will attempt to do the decibel reading or sound meter test. And then we're gonna check the UPS or EPS function right over here. And then the last one, we'll probably do some DC and AC charging, just so you can at least see the front. Okay, first one right over here, 119.6, 119.6, 119.8, 119.8. All right, next thing I wanna do is see if we actually get 2 different phases on these right here. Yes, we do. So technically this is gonna be like L1 and the other one is gonna be L2. Next one's gonna be the L14-30. This is a 240 volt split phase output right here. We get 240 volts. We'll check over to center, so we get 120 there and 119.8 over here, which is fan-freaking-tastic. Next one, we'll do the L14-50. Now keep in mind, this is a 50 amp receptacle right here, but you're not gonna get 50 amps from it because this can't output 50 amps. I think that's confusing for some people, but this basically gives you a few different options if you take this out RVing, or if you need to power a welder, you know, and it takes the same plug. All right, so from L1, we'll say we're getting 119.6, same thing, 119.9, and then if you want to go from line to line, 239.6 volts. Hopefully that's still in camera view. Okay, all of those are good. Let me check the regular 240 volt outlet right here. I always forget what these ones are called, but there you go, 239.6, just like everything else. The RV port right over here should be 120. And we're getting 119.8 or 9, just like all of the other ports, which is fan-freaking-tastic. Future Average Joe, I forgot to do this test earlier when we were doing all the voltage testing. Basically, what I wanted to show you is we have 240 volts coming out of the L1430 right here. It's gonna be the same out of the L1450, okay? Watch as soon as I plug it into the wall. 1 second. Boom, there we go. The 240 volt output goes away. So the reason I wanted to test that is if you were using this in a power outage, you know, similar to what we did at the beginning of the video, and we'll just say you don't have solar panels connected, or even if you did and it was really, really cloudy, and you needed to recharge this because your percent state of charge was getting really, really low. If you wanted to charge this from a generator, you know, 120 volt generator, just like we're doing right here, you know, from the wall, it's not going to continue powering whatever you're trying to power through the 240 volt outlets. It'll only do 120, basically. You're going to need to shut down so you can recharge from a generator, and then once you're powered back on, you know, you can continue using the 240 volt outputs. Now what I want to check is ground to neutral bonding. So I'm going to stick one probe in the ground and one in the hot, and it shows 123.9, which I don't think is actually correct, because if we actually check the output, it's only 120 volts. So I don't think this is ground neutral bonded, even though it shows 124 volts. I will reach out to OUPES to find out to make sure, but I don't think this is actually ground neutral bonded. If we want to check the neutral, of course it's only going to show 48.8. If we go down to the 240 volt, let's check that. It's going to be the same, 123.4 on that one, 123.9 on that one, even though if we check neutral to one of the hots, again, it only shows 120 on each of those. These ones are a little deep, so I don't know if I'm actually hitting anything in there. We could even do this one over here if you like. 123.7, 125, 124. This is the neutral, so yeah. Okay, I don't think this is ground neutral bonded, but I will reach out and find out. All right, I think I figured out a way to find out if this is actually ground neutral bonded or not, and this is gonna be a little sketchy and don't recommend it for really anybody else to do this. So I have a 75 watt incandescent bulb right here. I'm just gonna show you that it does work. Boom, it's powered on, okay? So what I'm gonna do next is I have a open cord wire right here. The white, of course, is your neutral. The black is gonna be the hot, and then we have the ground. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna plug the other end into the unit here, and then I will power it on with the black and the white just to show you that it does work. And then I'm gonna remove the neutral and then use the ground wire technically as my neutral. And if they were bonded, the light will light up. Okay, so I'm gonna plug this end over here. We're gonna be very careful right here. Again, I don't recommend this at all. I'm just gonna do this real quick. Boom, there is the light powered on with the neutral. I'm gonna take that away, bring up the ground, which would technically be my neutral now. Now I'm going to take the hot and the ground, which would be my neutral, and if this is bonded, the light will light up. Okay, so here we go. Boom. it does not light up. So this is not neutral ground bonded, which is exactly what you want. Nice. Especially if you're trying to hook this up to power your house, because in your main electrical panel, your ground and neutral are bonded in there. All right, next we're gonna check and see if we get battery voltage coming out of the battery expansion port from the main portable power station. I'm not gonna tell you why, but if you know, you know. Of course, I don't know which one's what. We get 53.3 volts. Nice. Now we're gonna check the UPS function. So I've plugged in this light down here just for a visual representation. It's plugged into one of the 2 outlets that is surrounded by that white line that says EPS. And I also have my little tiny O-scope right here so we can see if it transfers in less than 20 milliseconds, okay? So first one, we'll just unplug it. We're not putting any extra load on it or anything like that. We'll do that next, okay? So I'm going to unplug it, 3, 2, 1. Little tiny flash, you hear a little tiny beep. All right, here's my little tiny O-scope. Right through here, you can see the 60 hertz sine wave. Basically, we're in pass-through mode, so this is going to be my house sine wave. And then, of course, as soon as we unplug it, we're hopefully going to catch the 20 millisecond or less breakup in one of these sine waves right here. You can see right down here it says 5 ms. That stands for 5 milliseconds, and each one of these little boxes in here, if you can see it, those are 5 milliseconds. Okay, so we want less than 4 boxes of a transfer speed. Okay, I am going to unplug it in 3, 2, 1. Okay, I did see it on there. Of course, I didn't see how fast it was. I'll have to review the video. Okay, I'm gonna plug it back in. There we go. I didn't see any difference on here. Okay, we are going to unplug it one more time in 3, 2, 1. That one actually looked a little bit quicker. All right, next thing we're gonna do is basically the exact same test. I unplugged the light, but I plugged in a 1500 watt space heater down there on the floor, or maybe it's 1200, so you can see we're drawing 1250 watts right here. We are still plugged into the grid and charging. What I'm gonna do is unplug it from the grid and we'll make sure the heater stays running. And then of course after that we'll take a look at the little O-scope just to make sure everything looks good. We're gonna unplug in 3, 2, 1. It went from 1200 up to 1473. All right, we have the exact same scenario happening. I'm going to unplug it in 3, 2, 1. Boom, there we go. Now I'm going to plug it back in and wait for it to connect. Boom, there we go. Alrighty, we're gonna do this test one more time, but we're gonna add another space heater right here. We are gonna put a little bit of a strain on my own house circuit, but I think it'll be just fine for this quick test. Right now I do have the other heater working right now. You can see that is 1238 watts. I'm just gonna throw this on low, and sorry if it's noisy. 1800 watts. 2200 watts, and I'm gonna unplug it. And it's still working, and now we jumped up to 3033. Here's going to be the O-scope view for the exact same test. Second heater is on. We're drawing 3033 watts. Here we go. Oh, actually it just shut off. I overloaded the EPS output. Hold on one second, let me reset. I meant to put that on low and I didn't. Okay, we're gonna repeat that test. Right now we're drawing 1257 watts. I'm gonna turn on the second heater. That is on. It is 1825. I'm gonna bump it up to high. Boom. 32 or 23. It was 2300 watts whenever I pulled it, and now we're drawing 3030 watts. I'm actually going to do that test one more time. Second test, up on high, 3, 2, 1. Boom, there we go. All right, next thing I wanted to show is the sound or decibel rating. So right now, again, I've got both heaters plugged in. I had to use an extension cord to get that one as far away as I could so it wouldn't mess with the test. So right now we're drawing 3011 watts, and it's basically silent. It's like 44 decibels. And this right here is about 3 feet away from the exhaust, which is right over here. I also want to show that we're still holding steady at 119 volts. All right, so now I'm plugged into the TT-30 RV port on the side. Got an extension cord going over there to 2 heaters that are on the 1300 watt setting, and then another heater right down here on the other 120 volt outlets. So right now we're drawing 3,500 watts. I saw as high as 51. I'm gonna go over here. So I'm in the path of the wind right here. 54 is as much as I saw. I'm gonna go see if I can turn on the other heaters a little bit higher, and we'll see what happens if I don't blow up a wire. So now we're at 4,430 watts. I saw as high as 50 right here. I saw as high as 55 decibels. I can feel the air coming out, but it's not crazy, it's not loud. It's pretty quiet. So right now I'm plugged into this heater right here for the RV port. That goes to an extension cord, and it goes over here to these 2 heaters right here, which is probably overloading this extension cord right now. So I'm going to actually turn that off. And as soon as I turned off those 2 heaters over there, left this one on over here, back down to 40 decibels. And the fans are really, really quiet. All right, next test is more of a gee whiz type of test. I have 2 space heaters on like L1, and then I have this heater and the heat gun on the other phase, L2. We have 1 heater turned on. We're at 1,500 watts. Second heater is turned on. That is all on L1 or on L2, depending on how you look at it. I'm gonna turn on the next one. We're up to 4550, and now I'm gonna turn on the heat gun on high. Here we go. So 6,000 watts basically, so that's nice. Technically we can get up to, I think it's 3,600 watts per side. And I'll just let this run for a few minutes. And then I don't know if you can see this as well. The voltage is still holding strong at 238, 239 volts. We do this load right here, of course. We have 1.2 hours of runtime with 1 expansion battery at that 88% state of charge. All right, this has been maybe 4 minutes so far. I know I didn't get the timer in there soon enough, but I'm gonna add 1 more load on L2 real quick and see what happens. Here we go. Okay, 64, 65, there we go, overloaded it. Okay, that was at like 6,600. I just wanted to see what would happen for that. Just make sure it'll all turn back on. Boom, there we go, right up near 6,000 watts. Nice. Next test is gonna be the 10-inch sliding compound miter saw and the air compressor right over here. This is a 2 horsepower, 2.5 horsepower peak. The saw right over here is 15 amps. I do have them both plugged into the same phase. The air compressor first. Okay, I'm gonna try the saw too. Come on, shut up. It'll do the air compressor just fine, but if we try to add the saw kind of takes over slowly, then finally gets up to speed. During that time, the air compressor basically stops. Once this is up to speed, then the air compressor finally kicks back on. So technically they can do it, but it doesn't really like it. And again, that's all on the same outlet or same phase. Now what I'll do is I'm going to switch it, and I'll just put 1 L1 and 1 on L2. So they're both separated, and we will try basically the same thing. All right, here we go. Now for the saw. It'll do that just fine if you have 1 plugged into each phase. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna throw a heater on each one of those and try the same test again. Okay, I'm gonna turn this heater on right now. So that's going on high. That one is going to be the air compressor and the heater down there. And then this one is gonna be the heat gun on high, and that will be the saw. Okay, so now we're going with the air compressor first. That's fine. 4,200, now the saw. Alrighty, as you saw, it did all of that, no problem. And whenever I was watching the output here, I did see a little over 7,000 watts. There's actually one thing I forgot to mention with the outputs over here is you can use both the 120 and 240 all at the same time. Just keep in mind that on the L1, you can only do like 3,000 watts or 3,600 watts. And then on phase 2 or L2, same thing, 3,000 watts or 3,600 watts. You can use both at the same time. All right, next we're gonna do some solar or DC charging. We're gonna be using my power supply right here, and we're gonna be using the supplied cable MC4 to the little tiny Anderson connector, which is going to go right back here underneath the AC charging. Okay, so I'll plug that in right there. And then I'll plug in my MC4s, and we could just go off the specifications here real quick, and we could do roughly 12 to 18 volts and see if we can get the 15 amps. And then the highest I can go with this is 60 volts, which is not great for this test, but this is all I have. All right, here we go. We're gonna start with 18 volts. It's set on 3.9 amps. Here we go. Now we're starting to charge. Okay, we're at 71 watts. That's 3.9 amps over here. I'm gonna raise that up. Got it to 15 amps right here, which is like the lower voltage max. And that's gonna get us up to roughly 250, maybe 260 watts down here. Okay, I raise it up to 31.1 volts just to kind of simulate a regular solar panel. I've got it on 10 amps. We'll see what that does. Around 270, I'll bring it up to 15, seeing 400 watts. Next we'll do 58 volts and 10 amps. Here we go, around 511. Let me bring the current up a little higher, 862. I don't know how much higher I can go without blowing a fuse. But we'll try it, 20 amps. Oh yeah, that's right, I can't go up to 20 amps. We can only do 15 because that's what the port is rated for. And I'm a dummy because I have that right here in front of my face. All right, everything seems to be working fine. It'll do its 15 amps, no problem. If we had a higher voltage, or if I had an array in that 140 volt range, then I would try that, but I don't have an array set up to do that. So this is about as best as I can do for this. Next thing I'll do is plug it into the wall. So we're up to 1,310 watts. That's because I am on the adjust setting, and inside the app right here, I have it set to 500 watts. I am going to change that real quick. I'll just change it up to 1,000. All right, we're getting close to 1,600 and it's slowly climbing. We've got 860 solar and 952 coming in from the grid. All of that seems to work. I'm just going to flip it to the fast charge. So now we're charging at 2,680. We're doing 1,800 on this side and 860 for solar or DC coming in. AC and DC charging work as advertised. Okay, I think that's pretty much it. Next thing I'm gonna do is a capacity test. And now for the capacity test results. So first one was just on the power station alone. We did a 0.2 C rate, which was around 920 watts. And we got a total of 3.97 kilowatt hour. And then to calculate the efficiency rating for that, if we take the watt hours that we got from it, which was 3,970 watt hours, and divide it by the capacity of the battery, which was 4,608 watt hours. We times that by 100, we get 86.15% efficient, all right? And I would say that is average. Next capacity test, I did the main unit plus the expansion battery, again at a 0.2C rate, and that was 1,840 watts. And since I couldn't go up to 1,840 watts with this little meter right here, I'll basically burn it up. I had to switch to my other meter over there, and we went out of the 240 volt, which was the L1450 output over here. Went through that meter. I'm not 100% sure on the accuracy of that meter, but that's basically what I used. And then from the meter, we went over to the EG4 charge verter and then dumped this battery capacity into my off-grid battery system over there. And another little note is that meter will only check one side of the 240 volt because there's two hots. My meter will only check one side. So whatever the result is on there, we have to times it by 2. Just letting you know how all of that works. Alrighty, so at the beginning of the test, the meter already read 9.67 kilowatt hour, okay? And then we ended on 13.96. And now we have a cat here. But anyway, if I take the 9.76, I think a second ago I said 9.67. Anyway, if I take the 9.76 from 13.96, we get 4.2. And then again, like I said, the meter only reads one side, so we have to times it by 2. So we're gonna get 8.4. or 8,400 watt hours. And then if we take the 8,400 watt hours divided by the capacity right here, we times that by 100, we get an efficiency rating of 91.14%, which was actually a lot higher than the previous test, which is kind of nice. And then I did one more capacity test with both of these combined again. However, I just did a full send, maxing out the inverter all the way down to 0 if it would let us, which it did. The only side note to that is I couldn't fully max this out using the EG4 charge inverter because that will only go up to 5,000 watts. This is a 6,000 watt output inverter. But we were able to get over 5,000 watts with that. So anyway, for the full send capacity test, my meter over there before the test started was on 13.96 kilowatt hour. And then when the test was over, it read 17.96 kilowatt hour. And if we do the 13.96 from 17.96, it equals 4. If we do 4 times 2, it equals 8, so that is 8,000 watt hours. And then for the efficiency rating, one more time, we're gonna take the 8,000 watt hours divided by the battery capacity, times that by 100, and our efficiency rating is 86.80 efficient, which is slightly better than the very, very first one, again, on just the main unit alone. Okay, so those were my capacity tests. Now the reason I show all those numbers and go through all the math, and that's just so you guys can kind of follow along and see exactly how I tested the batteries for their capacity test. And again, there's probably gonna be a million different ways to do it. That's just how I did it. Some people will say this is not an accurate way to do it, but this is the test equipment that I have, and I believe most other people can get all the exact same things that I have, so it is accurate in my opinion. Alrighty, and then the very last test that I did would be the parasite test or the parasitic draw test. Basically, you charge this up to 100% state of charge, you turn on the inverter, and then you just let it sit there and do absolutely nothing over 12 or 24 hours, however you want to do it. I did it for 12 hours. I attempted to time-lapse it with my GoPro. If you're familiar with GoPros, then you'll understand my pain. They will shut off whenever they get hot. I kind of had a feeling that that was going to happen because it's happened before with GoPros. So the nice thing that I was able to do was go into the app, and you can set the timers on this. So I set it for 12 hours and 15 minutes. And this is what we got. It was 81% after that test. So it actually dropped 19% in 12 hours. Now, to me, that seems kind of high, but I don't know. Maybe I'll have to test that one again. but that's what we got. It shows it right here. All right, next we're gonna go over my personal pros and cons. And of course, if you happen to see any in the video, you know, make sure you put those down in the comment section so everybody else can read those. Okay, we're gonna start with the pros first, and these are not in any particular order. Pro number one, it does 120, 240 right out of the box. You don't have to push any buttons. You don't have to go into the app or do anything crazy, which is actually kind of nice. It's great for power outages and stuff like that, especially if you have like a manual generator transfer switch like I have and we used at the beginning of the video, or if you have the generator inlet, you know, a 30 or a 50 amp, it doesn't really matter. Then you can power either your entire house or, you know, specific circuits in a, you know, an emergency situation or whenever there's a power outage. So that is nice that it's just 120, 240 right out of the box. The next one isn't like a super pro or anything like that, but you do get quite a few options. Of course, you get your USB A and C, but I'm more referring to the 120, 240. You get 4 different outlets that are 120. Oh no, I'm sorry, you actually get 5 ports that are 120 volts. You get the 4 on the top, and then you get the TT30 RV plug. And then you get 3 more options for 240 volts. 2 of those options are the 240 that are split phase, which is basically what we did earlier in the video. And then the other one that I always forget what kind of plug it's called, but it's just straight 240. There's no neutral or anything like that. It's just 240 and a ground. So you do get quite a few options, you know, for RVs, you know, battery backup, etc. You know, you do get quite a few options. The next one is the UPS or EPS. It works fan-freaking-tastic, and even whenever we tested it for the little tiny O-scope, the advertised was less than 20 milliseconds, and basically every single test that I put it through was right at 15 or under. So that is fan-freaking-tastic. Basically what that means is if you have, you know, like a computer plugged into this and you lose power, the computer is going to stay running. Or if you have servers, or if you have medical equipment, you know, whatever you have plugged into it is going to stay on because this transfers less than 20 milliseconds. The next one's going to be the Bluetooth app. It's pretty easy and kind of straightforward to understand. There's no like tricky things you have to do to make things work. It's all pretty easy to operate. The next one is this is not ground neutral bonded. I know I was having a little bit of trouble trying to figure out if it was or wasn't because, I don't know, I think with other power stations that I've tested, it was pretty easy to tell. But with this one, I don't know, I just wanted a second opinion, so I did send them a message to confirm whether or not it was or was not ground neutral bonded, and they replied saying it is not ground neutral bonded. While I was waiting for them to reply, that's when I came up with the light bulb trick to confirm whether it was or wasn't. So I found out that it was not ground neutral bonded, and then they confirmed it. So that is a plus because, like I mentioned, if you're hooking this up to your house to power whatever you're trying to power, your main electrical panel in your house should be ground neutral bonded, and you only want one of those. And the last one is you actually get battery voltage out of the battery expansion slot on the main unit and on the expansion battery. So that is nice. And again, if you know, you know. Now we'll move on to the cons, and my biggest con for this right now is the pass-through function. Whenever you plug this into the wall or a generator, if you were using this in an emergency, the 240 volt output stops. Okay, the 120 will continue, just the 240 will stop. So if you are using this to power your house, you know, the 240 volt inlet like I was doing at the beginning of the video, if I happen to plug that into a generator while powering my house, the 240 volt outlet is going to stop. Therefore, I will not be powering my house anymore. It'll only do the 120 volt side. So of course I did send them a message saying, you know, that would be optimal if you guys could fix that, because I know people, if they are using this in an emergency, or if they're just trying to power their cabin, you know, in the woods or whatever, and they're using 240, and you plug this into a generator, people are gonna wanna be able to continue using that 240 volt outlet. They did mention that they also received that from other people that are testing this, and they agree that it should be a thing. So they did say that they will be working on that for like a version 2 of this, like an updated version. However, there's no timeline for that right now. Okay, number 2 is the parasitic draw seemed like it was a lot at 18 to 19%. I think I'm going to retest that one just to verify. Basically this ended this morning like that at 81%, so I didn't have enough time to test it again, but I do want to test that again just to kind of reconfirm. But losing 18 to 19% just sitting there with the inverter on does seem like a lot. The next con is if you are trying to drag this up the stairs, you know, let's say you keep it somewhere and you have to drag it upstairs to use it, good luck. You're not going to be able to do it because there are rubber feet down here, which are good because the whole unit sits on those rubber feet. But if you're trying to drag it up the stairs, the rubber feet are going to basically get caught on the stairs. So basically what that means is you're going to want a second person to lift this up because this is what, like 110 or 111 pounds. Unless you can lift that easily, you know, you could do it one man, but I would suggest doing a 2-man lift. The next one is kind of nitpicky, and it is if you have a expansion battery right on top. If you try to move this, you know, pulling out the luggage handle and try to move it around to wherever you're gonna go, of course, if you tilt it too high, this battery will slide off. There are no like indentations on the main power station, so the little rubber feet can kind of sit in. So to prevent it from falling off, because you know people are going to try to move this around with expansion batteries on top. So I did mention that to them, and maybe they will look into that. So if you are going to be moving this around, be careful. The next one, again, is maybe kind of nitpicky, maybe not, but the luggage handle over here on the front, whenever you extend that, there is a button that locks it in place. You push the button to unlock it to pull out the handle. This one is not spring loaded. So on many of the other power stations that I've tested, once you push that button, the handle will kind of like spring load out so you can grab it. This one is not, so sometimes it's just a little tricky after you push the button to get the handle out. And then the last one is, it would be great if this had another solar charge controller in it or another solar input so you could add more power. More power is more better. The reason I would say that is since it only has the one DC solar input. If you are truly using this in an emergency situation, you're going to want as much recharge power as you can. A second DC solar charging input would be fan-freaking-tastic. More power is more better. All right, those are my personal pros and cons. And again, if you happen to see some in the video, make sure you put those down in the comment section so everybody else can see them. All right, lastly is going to be the price. And again, if you're watching this video before Black Friday, because this coming next couple of days is like the Thanksgiving holiday weekend, if you're watching this around this time, you're in luck if you are interested in this because it is only $1,699 for the main unit down here. It's like super, super cheap. But wait, there's more. If you wanted to add an expansion battery on top of that, your total price is gonna be $2649, okay? That is like super, super cheap compared to basically everybody out there. And I also want to mention real quick for the last OUPES portable power station that I tested, which was the OUPES Mega 3, that one also did fan-freaking-tastic. I had 0 problems with that one as well. This one performed basically the same. So basically what I want to do whenever I test all these is I want to confirm what it says on their website, and this one does just that. It's a pretty solid unit. Same with the other one that I already tested. And one other final note that I wanted to add in here, this is just for gee whiz information of how cool OUPES is whenever I went down to North Carolina to help with the Hurricane Helene, disaster, I brought down a whole bunch of portable power stations, and OUPES was one of the people that sent me a whole bunch of these that I could hand out to some people down there. So that was pretty awesome. Anyway, if anybody is interested in the brand spanking new OUPES Guardian 6000 or maybe an expansion battery, I'm gonna have links and discount codes in the description down below. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, make sure you put those down in the comment section. And finally, if this video is helpful in any way possible, make sure you like that smash button on your way out, and I'll see you on the next.